Welcome to Reaching Out. We got a very interesting program lined up for you today. We're going to talk about food, and I got Zoe and Gabe with me. They've traveled. They've been over in Korea. They've been in Japan. They've been various places. So let's just think about that for a second. All too often we think that food is an end in itself, but it's not. Everything that we eat, we should do it as to the glory of God. So if you're not eating to the glory of God, don't eat it. So that's the thought. We're going to look into that. And Wanda's got a couple announcements here.
Amen.
We get right into our message.
Okay, well, we start off the week on Sunday morning with Sunday school at 9:30 out at Reaching Out Ministries, and we have a 10:30 worship service, and we follow it with food. Pot blessing at noon whenever we finish up the service, and everyone is welcome to come out for all the activities or some of the activities of Sunday. And on Monday morning at 7 a.m. at Sweet Temptations in Whitehall, there is more food, breakfast, and a Bible study at like Sweet Temptations in Whitehall. So you're invited to come to that. On Thursday, we have our food distribution, and you are invited to come out to that. It's no questions asked except how many people in your family, basically, and your address. And we ask for a $10 donation, but you get food if you don't have it. So that's every week in the mornings on the first and third Thursday of the month from 9 to 11. And on the second, fourth, and fifth Thursdays of the month from 3 to 5. So it all revolves around food.
I had a call this morning from some people that wanted food, and their total food share was $55 for the month.
Yeah, that's not quite going to do it, I don't think.
That ain't going to do it, no. So that's what's happening. Okay, anything else? Not, Gabe, you've been traveling.
I've traveled once
I'm
or
going
twice.
to start with you.
Okay.
I'm going to pick on you.
That's fine.
What was your favorite dish in Korea?
So I'm actually gonna make it tonight. It's pajeon. It's a pancake, and there's a little bit of difference in pancakes from here in America to Korea. You use what on yours? What do you like to put on your pancakes?
I don't eat pancakes.
Don't lie to me. Okay, fine. But if you were to eat pancakes,
Not his
you'd
favorite
use
food.
No, that's okay. I get it. I'm not a sweet breakfast guy, actually, to be honest, either. But in general, you put maple syrup, you put butter on it, chocolate chips might go in it, some peanut butter. Yeah, right. It's nice and sweet. And so pancakes in Korea, though, use a little bit more interesting ingredients. They do stuff like seafood, like shrimp or squid, green onions, carrots, peppers. I mean,
It sounds like an omelet.
it sounds like an omelet, but it looks like a pancake with a bunch of crap in it. It's. I like the way they look personally and stuff. It just looks like a lot compared to what we normally would do. But I would say that pancake as an appetizer, as a meal, was one of my favorite meals.
Foods.
That we got to cook it, actually. So Zoe did an Airbnb experience, which was a cooking class with a woman named Min. And she taught us how to make pajeon, she taught us how to make bulgogi, and then she taught us how to do a seaweed soup, like a birthday soup, though.
Yeah.
They serve it traditionally on birthdays. And was it bulgogi or was it?
We had bulgogi is the meat in there. Gogi means meat in Korean, but it was bibimbap that we ate, which was a bowl of mixed vegetables, but we made the bulgogi to put in the bibimbap.
What was your favorite food, Zoe?
My favorite food probably would be the stews in Korea. Korea has a lot of stews. It's called jjigae. So you can have kimchi jjigae, so kimchi stew. You can have tofu stew. You can have hangover
Tell us what
soups.
kimchi is.
Oh, kimchi. So kimchi is fermented cabbage, basically.
Sauerkraut.
Yeah. Basically a type of sauerkraut, but the Korean type. So cabbage.
They got ginger in it, huh?
Yep, it has ginger, cabbage, salt, garlic, usually a fish sauce, whether It's like shrimp or fish sauce there, and they ferment it like you would a sauerkraut or something like that.
Why am I not even
There-
getting hungry?
Yes, but the interesting
You're
thing.
missing it, dude.
You
The
would like
interesting
it.
thing that Zoe told me was that you get kimchi almost with every meal.
Yeah, they eat kimchi with every meal. So when I worked at the school, that was a side special for the teachers because kids can't eat kimchi usually because there's red chili flakes in it. There is a white kimchi where it's just more vinegar based, but the red kimchi, of course, has the red chili flakes, so that's for the adults.
I was gonna say that's the difference, though. Like the sauerkraut that we're used to here is just very sour and vinegary,
Yeah.
and that would be like the white kimchi probably. But
Yeah, correct.
traditionally, there's a lot of red kimchi.
Why
everywhere,
can't
right?
the kids eat red kimchi?
Because it's too hot, honey.
I worked at a
It's too
kindergarten.
hot.
Maybe middle schoolers or high schoolers
What were-
would like it, but not the
It's a hot.
4-year-old.
Oh, I
What were
see.
you,
Peppery.
what were
It's
you eating
peppery.
as a kid?
Yeah.
As a 6-year-old, I mean, sauerkraut.
Yeah, we had sauerkraut.
Yes, but it didn't have chili peppers in it. It didn't have
No, we
red
had
peppers
chili.
in it. Yeah, mild chili.
So what was your favorite food? Tell us about that, Zoe.
I would have to say it was probably Twinjan jjigae, which is a soybean paste soup. It's very potent. Not even all Koreans like this soup because it smells, because it's fermented soybean paste as a soup. But it was my favorite. Very salty there.
Well,
But I loved it. It was
I'm telling you, you came home healthy.
Yeah.
You ate kimchi because that's very healthy for you.
yes.
And then you ate this other stuff, this fermented soybean paste.
There you go.
Yes.
Which doesn't even sound good to me.
You're not salivating over there?
not yet.
Not yet.
Favorite.
When Grandma's stuff ferments in the refrigerator, she throws it out.
One idea I wanted to add that I think is really interesting is like, I was trying to think of what we compare kimchi to, other than sauerkraut. Like we have, or in Korea and in Japan, there was a lot of sides, like a lot of different small sides, bean sprouts that got pickled, or bean sprouts that didn't get pickled, which was like half the time. But like I couldn't think of like a side that we would do. Like we have a side of French fries, but that's like I get a half a plate of French fries with my burger. We would just get these small plates of cabbage and of pickled things, and it would be something that you would use to like reset your palate. Kind of. You could take a bite of something.
And
You
they're
could-
free.
And they're free, right? They're absolutely free. So it'd be kind of like something you get at a bar, maybe get like a side cup of peanuts at a bar.
Well,
But I just mean like the emphasis on sides and about how the meal comes together is kind of different than how our emphasis is here. I mean,
so what else did you eat?
I think the craziest thing I ate was on Jeju Island. So it's an island off the south coast of the peninsula, and they have women divers on the island that dive for like big mollusks or sea snails. It's a quite dangerous job too, but we had the sea snails, which they serve live. So it was it was a
Come
pot.
on.
You better explain that.
So we got like the one with noodles. We saw the picture and it had noodles and the seafood, and it was a big like hot pot. And we were very excited for this. It sounds good. We did not know it would be served to us live because you have a burner, like a hot plate on each table. So they bring out the pot and they set it on the burner and they start the fire. It's like a little gas burner there. Start the fire and it boils and cooks your seafood right there for you. We ate it all because they died for us, literally right in front of us. So we were a bit in shock, but we did eat all of the seafood.
Cannibals.
No,
not
that'd be
in the
eating
They were-
human.
they were-
no. It was very good though. It was
What?
kind of like calamari, is what it tasted like, but it was.
Well, calamari are snails.
Aren't they squid?
calamari is squid, Grandpa.
Squid,
Oh,
squid.
what's this snail?
Escargot is like a French word for
Escargot.
snail.
Yeah.
Or a French phrase for that, I think. Yeah, what's the other
Yeah.
specialty on that island?
Gee, my goodness.
In Jamaica, we had a lot of conch. Those are those big snails and the big shells.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Were they good?
Yeah,
Nice.
but we didn't cook them alive.
Well, how were they cooked then?
I don't know. I didn't cook them.
Well,
I mean, we don't really know
just
if they
because
were,
you didn't have to see it didn't mean they weren't cooked alive.
right.
Could
Yeah.
you? How was your?
But she got dinner and a show, though.
How was your taste? You know, did it squirm when you cooked it?
Yes.
Were there
You
tear-
saw it.
Were there
'cause-
tears shed?
Yeah, my friend cried.
Well, you know,
I
if the
don't
animal
blame
rights people are listening, they'll boycott you.
I'm so sorry about that.
Well, so if
Why-
you don't want
what-
seafood on
do
the
you
island,
know-
what could
did
you
you
get, though?
Very famous for their black pork. Very famous for Jeju black pork.
Dang it.
I was reading about that. They got black
Great.
pork and white pork. Tell me the difference.
I don't know. Don't know about that one.
Tell us about the black pork then.
That's what they called it. I don't know if that was just the
didn't
literal translation, but it's raised on Jeju. The pork is, or the pigs are. So they have barbecue on the island, Korean style barbecue with pork, samgyeopsal, and you can have that pork. It was some of the best I had. Usually you can have different sauces with your pork. I only used salt because it was
Really good
Perfect.
flavor.
perfect.
Nice.
You know, I read about that black pork, and
But it just looks like pork.
Yeah.
They just call it black pork.
they
yeah.
char it. I don't know if they do something.
Well, at least
different with
that's
it.
something I can relate to a little.
Did you have the snails in Jamaica?
The snails?
Yeah.
The conch.
escargot.
I
yeah.
had conch soup once. It was very good. I just lost my train of thought about
That's
something
okay.
I had that.
Well, you know,
But you got to eat what's traditional when you're there.
Yeah,
You got to try it
yeah, you
out.
do. I know some people do in this country do it, and I mentioned it on a show before at some time. But we had in Jamaica, we had just finished like 3 hours of ministry. And so the pastor and his wife and a few people, we had Richard Sullivan with us, and we went to the pastor's office, and they served us up some chicken soup, which was terrific. It was so tasty and so good. And till I saw this chicken foot emerge in the soup.
Every
Did
part
you
of the animal.
get like parts like that over there, or
duck soup or
They, I think, did have something, but that wasn't very popular. Like, most people didn't eat that.
yeah?
But you could get, I think you could get chicken feet or something like that. Very much a delicacy and very much for specific people.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yes. Well, then
I think people.
we took
I don't know,
Arnold
man.
Metz with us another time, and we got served that same chicken soup again. Now I ate all the soup that I could by continuing to push that foot down that first time.
so you couldn't see it.
Right, and I tried, and the second time, I think we actually dished up our own. Well, Arnold got a couple of chicken feet in his soup because he wanted them.
You eat 'em?
And he was sitting there sucking on those chicken feet. And I
Dang
went,
it.
but see, he grew up that way. His mother would cook chicken feet too.
We had duck soup when I was a kid. I wouldn't
Yeah.
eat it.
Yeah.
Well, there's cartilage, and
But-
there's fat,
Duck
and
feet.
there's things in it that you can boil down the parts, and you can use.
Yeah,
I've seen
you
people
suck-
use them
Oh, yeah.
to make
They
fat or
suck
to make
those
other
webs.
things off
Sure.
of it.
Absolutely. But you
That's
know,
what I thought.
Whoa, dude. We have different palates.
that was I won't forget that. And our trips.
I'll tell you what the book says about that. Isaiah 1:19 says, "If you're willing and obedient, you'll eat the good things of the land."
I was really wondering what kind of scripture
Well,
you're going to come at us with
you
today.
know,
I was really wondering
It
how
was
you'd relate
really
this to food.
good chicken soup. And actually didn't find any other meat pieces in there except that foot, which you couldn't call meat. So it was eating the good of the land, I guess, yes.
So what was the best food you ate in Spain? You spent a year in Spain too.
I did spend a year in Spain. We're gonna have to go back to the stews. I really like stews and soups all around the world, I guess. Like I think they call it like a cocido in Spanish, but it would be potatoes and chicken thighs and vegetables.
What color is it?
In a sauce. It was usually like a light brown sauce, and was like a stew there. It was very, very good. Or paella, classic Spanish dish there. Paella is very good.
Isn't that a rice?
And
Or
that's
like
like
a paella is the name of a rice.
rice.
Yep, it's like a rice bake. The traditional one has bigger green beans in it, as well as rabbit and snail.
Oh, there's those snails.
Fusion,
again.
land and
Those
sea.
rabbits, see a lot of rabbits over there.
Yeah.
What did they feed the kids in Korea?
Well, I ate the same lunch because we all ate it together, but you always had a portion of rice, a soup, a meat, either a white kimchi or some type of radish, some type of vegetable there, and maybe like a fourth vegetable, because it was like a five dish plate, you know. It was always full there. There would be chicken, there'd be that bulgogi we talked about, like the beef, fish soup or something along that lines. So we had duck as well.
They ate pretty well, right? Like that was pretty.
I went
good
to a
quality
private. I worked at a private kindergarten, so they paid for that kindergarten. It was quite expensive. They paid each month to send their kid there.
Food. Yes, they were eating pretty well though.
Yes.
So what was your favorite street food?
My favorite street food has to be hotok, which is kind of like a pancake again, but it's like a stuffed pancake. You can buy them in the freezer as well. I actually saw it in a supermarket in Eau Claire. You could buy frozen hotok, but it's always best when you buy it as street food there. But it's like a stuffed pancake where they stuff it with syrup. I think my favorite one was a pumpkin one. They put in like seeds and pumpkin syrup and cinnamon, and it's all fried there, and then you eat it off the street. That was always my favorite.
That sounds pretty good.
What was your favorite street food?
I'm trying to think of my least favorite one right now for some reason.
Your least favorite?
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, we had some. What were those nuts? At the
Oh,
end of
chestnuts?
We had some chestnuts off the street.
Yeah.
That I don't know if they do that anywhere in America on the street, but like, don't eat them. Don't eat them. They didn't have any flavor, and I don't know how they were cooked or whatever. That was just wild, though.
You mean that chestnuts roasting on an open fire is just a myth? It sounds good.
I have a hunch that it is. Yeah, I think so.
But Spain, they roasted chestnuts out in the street too.
Yep.
Yep.
I never ate those. I don't know
So
if
we
they
can't compare and
compare.
contrast. Darn. Well, either way, that was my least favorite, and that's because that was like on the last couple days of the trip. I'm trying to think of my favorite street food though. I don't know if I had a lot of street food while I was there.
They didn't have like hot dog vendors and
They don't have
No New
hot
York
dogs over there.
slices. No, I mean there's
No
people,
Chicago dogs.
Zoe got a hot dog. Remember when we were in Japan on the little town?
Yeah.
You got a hot dog because they do hot dogs differently there too.
Yeah, that was actually a Korean food vendor in Japan.
Yes.
Yeah, because I saw their hot dog and I knew what it was, and that's what I wanted. But they do their hot dogs. It was more like a corn dog.
Yeah.
But the breading was potatoes on the outside, like little hash brown cubes of potatoes that were battered and put around the hot dog and fried.
oh wow.
I don't even think there was a hot dog. I think it was just cheese on the inside in a
Cheese
hot
dog.
shape.
Yeah, because they do like a lot of different fancy ones, much like you'd see like elote, I want to say, is a corn dish that you can get in. I think we could have had it when we were in Colombia, honestly. But they'll dress corn up with cheese and spice and a lot of different things, and it makes our mustard ketchup combo on our hot dogs look kind of basic sometimes.
I
But they go
think-
hard with those.
I think the scariest thing though is the amount of sugar that they put on food that just shouldn't have it. So with that potato cheese dog, they asked me, "Do you want us to roll it in sugar?" And then they put on ketchup. And
Oh.
I was like, no, I always say no to sugar.
Ketchup.
No, it's
Sugar tomatoes.
Sugar and ketchup.
but it's the same thing. There was this little like pop-up tent, like food vendor right where I worked that did breakfast sandwiches. So you had the toast, the egg, the ham, the cheese, and then they would put sugar on it as well. And I was always so scared. I was like, please, I'd always practice my Korean about how do I ask for no sugar. So they do that. And garlic bread, if you aren't careful, if you go to like most bakeries, if they sell garlic bread, they will put sugar on the garlic bread.
Oh man.
You have to look for the bakeries that do it without. Like either there's sometimes German bakeries I found or a French bakery that gets away from the sugar on their savory toasts, but Korean bakeries will usually have sugar on their garlic bread.
You know,
ridiculous.
Wow.
I gotta say this while we're talking about this, because food is important, and the reality of it is, God gave us food. And
Yes.
Psalm 136:25 says, He gave food to every creature. We are to live off the good of the land. And we're going to change gears just a little bit here. And that is that the culture is different, but it's the same because we're in the same tropical, that's the temperate zone. So they raise a lot of cabbage in Korea. They raise a lot of cabbage in Poland. And they raise a lot of cabbage in the northern hemisphere here in the United States, because that temperate zone goes all the way around the world.
Laterally speaking,
Yeah.
we're like
Yeah.
close
And
to the same line.
and
Japan's a little
like,
south of us.
Like the vegetation
Korea's
will
more
be
in
the
line with
same,
us, I
like the
think.
trees will be the same,
4 seasons.
and different
Yeah.
things like that.
So tell us about the vegetation.
Well, I don't know much about the vegetation.
I don't know a whole lot about it either, but I
because
think
you
the
lived in it.
rice yeah, I live in Seoul.
In
but
the city of trees.
yeah,
they
the
call
city
it.
of 10 million people.
Oh wait.
But the rice patties, that was my first time seeing rice patties, and I like their lime green color when they're
New.
I think it's when they're new in the early season, when they're lime green. I never saw a color so vibrant in nature, and it's just fields of these vibrant rice patties there. But yeah, Korea is a country of 4 seasons. It's interesting. There's an island called Ulleungdo, which has like pumpkins on it. It's very famous for pumpkins. And then that Jeju Island and Udo Islands right next to that is famous for peanuts. And Jeju's famous for oranges. But you really didn't see any oranges in Busan, which is the southern city there on the peninsula. And then you go Jeju, which is even more southern there. But so you
How many
see
islands are there?
lots.
Lots of islands.
Yeah, hundreds.
It's like the Philippines, lots of islands.
Chains.
Right. A lot of them are uninhabited. There's a part of them in the Tongyeong province of Korea where they're uninhabited islands, and they have like some hiking trails on some of them, or you could take a boat and do a tour, more for tourism than living. The most, I guess, populated islands would be Ulleungdo and Jeju-do. And Ulleungdo doesn't even have an airport. You'd have to ferry to it. They're trying to put an airport there 2025. The locals don't want it.
Ah, okay.
Keep the islands to themselves.
Well, what did you traveled around? What did you learn?
Well, in terms of the environment and stuff, a lot of similar trees and different types of things that remind me of home over in Japan and in Korea. Not so much. Well, in Busan we got to see a little bit more nature. Not so much in Seoul. We didn't get to see much nature in Seoul.
We did the hike, Namsan Tower hike in
Yeah,
Seoul.
we did do that hike. Yeah, that was a fun hike. Well, Zoe just has this habit of not talking about how elevation changes when we go on trips. And so we just ended up having to climb some elevation. It was more like Dad that was struggling at that point.
How high did you go?
Like 5-6 stories? Or was it like...
You walked up
It was
the
probably
steps?
like a 35-minute walk straight up a hill.
Oh, it was 2 hours of a walk.
It was not 2 hours.
It wasn't like that for
it
me.
felt like 2 hours.
Time
huh?
moved differently for me. But no, the environment looked really nice. I really liked Japan's nature that we got to see. We got to go out to Mount Fuji and see that volcano / mountain.
Yeah.
Was the volcano erupting?
I wish. No,
No,
it wasn't
you
though.
wouldn't
But
wish.
It wasn't smoky?
no, but it had snow on top of it, and it's about a 50-50 shot when you're trying to go visit it in terms of weather, in terms of smog, in terms of clouds in general. And we got really lucky, and we had just a beautiful full day.
What was the
Traveling
favorite
for
thing
it.
you ate in
Japan?
yeah,
Ramen.
ramen noodles?
Period. Just ramen. Period. Yep.
Yay for
I-
ramen
you know,
noodles.
I've been on a journey all my life. I've been eating Marukan, or I might be saying it wrong, but
That's right, you're the ramen noodle expert.
I've been eating ramen noodles since I was a boy. Okay, so I've been waiting for this moment to go to Japan and to have like an authentic bowl served the way that it was meant to be served, right? And I would say that the ramen over there blows everything out of the water, even the stuff that I was able to make on my own, which
What's
was
the
still
menu
good.
of a ramen? What's the recipe for ramen noodles?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. I mean, there's like at least hundreds of like broth types in a sense, because you can make your own broth type. There's like a couple main staples that I can't really go into because I'm not the master yet. I was a master at eating it, not making it while I was there. But like shoyu, like a shoyu broth is a soy sauce based broth, and a tonkatsu broth was like a pork or a chicken based broth primarily. And so definitely tried some of the main staples, and it makes me look at the package a little bit differently now.
I never
for sure.
thought about ramen noodles that way.
Well, it wasn't even a Japanese thing.
They ate them
They
in
s-
Korea?
Yep, there is. I think it's Shin Ramen. You can find it in Walmart. That is a Korean ramen that's very popular these
Very
days.
spicy.
Very spicy. Shin Ramen is very spicy, but that is a Korean ramen that they sell locally now because it became so popular. It's not a Japanese one.
Well, what's your
Well,
favorite ramen noodle?
Probably because there's a miso one too, miso soy sauce, and like a meat-based one. If I had to pick, I'd probably pick. I really like the miso flavored ramen broths because it's moderate and it's not as salty as the shoyu one or
Man,
the
Yeah,
I'm
that-
learning something I
That's
didn't even know.
soybeans again, right?
miso paste is fermented soybeans.
What are
I
the
wanna
noodles
say.
made out of?
The noodles themselves, I was gonna say buckwheat. No, it's just like normal types
Normal
of
noodles?
traditional wheats probably, and different types of grains that go into them. Like, I mean, rice noodles are made from rice and stuff, and then there's like the wheat type noodles, and there's like udon noodles and soba noodles that are a little bit even thicker. I mean, I'm just boring you right now. I'm sorry, man. I know. It's just,
Well,
there's
no,
a lot.
I'm-
There's
I-
a lot, though.
I
There's a
I'm
wanna know,
lot.
baffled by
um,
this.
Yeah.
So they don't
No.
eat a lot of meat.
No.
They eat a lot of noodles
Depends.
and vegetables.
They cook snails.
No, they eat a lot of meat. Korean barbecue.
Yeah, I know Korean barbecue.
What is Korean barbecue?
Famous.
An event.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it is
What
kind
kind
of
of
an
meat?
event. Oh well, you can get beef or pork. You can get pretty much most things at. They have each restaurant will be specific to whether they specialize in pork, specialize in beef. Some do both, and you can go and have Korean barbecue. But it is something that is usually a conversational setting, a group setting there, whether it's like after work drinks with like your coworkers or with your friends, because usually you have to order at least 2 portions, like 2 orders for people, 2 orders of meat, and so it's a bit much for one person. I have seen like one person at the barbecue by themselves, but that's very rare.
That'd be me. If
Wow.
I could. At
You
this
know,
point.
I'm going to say something about that because I took and when I was in Colombia, they were roasting a whole animal on a fire.
Yep. I think I know what place. When we went out of the city, you mean?
Yeah, you were with yeah, and that was probably the best beef I've ever eaten. But the question that I have to ask: you ever see anything like that in Korea?
No, I have not. I haven't seen any like roasting of a whole animal. The only thing would be like seafood wise, but nothing like a pig being
Nothing like a
roasted.
pig
Chicken,
or a
maybe.
cow. This was a whole.
Yeah, you'd see like whole rotisserie chickens, but not a whole pig or anything big.
You see any of that in Mexico?
Mainly in Colombia.
Just in Colombia.
With you on that one. Not really in Mexico necessarily. Depends on where you went and how traditional they were going, you know. I think you probably see it in Mexico too.
You know, and
They did it in the Philippines.
Yeah, they did in the Philippines, but I never seen it in the United States. But they actually took the whole cow, hooked them on a big apparatus, and put a guy on the end of it and turned it with a crank, and roasted that cow. They roasted him for days. I don't mean days, but they had to roast him for a while.
And Hawaii.
Hours.
Yeah.
Oh, the luau.
The luau in Hawaii, they buried the pig.
Yeah, they buried it.
Yeah, they buried it and like it cooked underground, and then they took it out and then we ate it.
After like 12 hours or 8
Yeah,
hours.
something like that.
That's another traditional way to do things, though.
Yeah.
Rotisserie, that's hardcore. That's an athlete
Yeah.
right there. You have to be cranking.
Yeah,
But-
they had a couple, 3, 4 guys took turns cranking this thing.
Sure.
So no matter where you go,
Well, Psalm
Food.
136, he gives food to every creature.
people fellowship around
Food.
Whether it's like we do at church every Sunday, we have a meal together following the service, or families that get together, or
Friends.
just friends. It takes place around food. That's why food is
But the idea that we need to eat is a shared phenomenon, much like the idea that
Right.
we all shovel snow in the winter.
right.
And for that reason, we're nicer. That's
Yeah.
a personal theory. But
Well, I have some renters don't shovel snow in the winter.
ungrateful. I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's a bummer. But I just mean like the communion of it all, or the fellowship that you use, that word, I mean.
Yep.
That's kind of what we all share, that we all need to eat, we all need to do this type of thing. And I've always liked that about food. Travel Channel has always had some good television about people that would go out and adventure into these places, right? And guess what they would do, like 60% of the episode? They'd be sharing a meal, and that's where they get the best conversations
Yep.
or the most information out of somebody.
Right.
And yeah, that's...
You know, I want to
Just learn
say
a lot.
Absolutely.
I want to say something here to the vegetarians. You know, I and Wanda were vegetarians for a while, and there's nothing wrong with it.
So
It's
were
a-
Gabe and Zoe, although
it's
they
a
were
good thing,
this
but I wanna-
high.
Yeah, I was rebelling during
In
that.
1 Timothy 4, it says, "For every creature of God is good, and nothing is to be refused if it is received with thanksgiving." So when we talk about these bizarre things, it's not some heathen that's cooking up something. It's very legitimate, it's very good, and we don't have to be ashamed of eating the snails or the conch or the squid or the octopus. Do you eat all these animals too over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were only
It's-
go ahead, Gabe.
I mean, you're looking at years and years of tradition and in cooking and in nature, and being vegetarian isn't necessarily a new one probably at all.
No.
But some of the diets that are around and available now are really new phenomenons that have been made possible by the advances of some technologies and certain foods too.
Certainly.
So a lot of this stuff is very just traditional type of eating, and that was how they view the relationship with food and nature. You know?
Vegetarianism came out of Genesis 1:29, and God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree, to which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed, and to you it shall be for food." And that's where the whole concept of vegetarian came from, out of the Old Testament, where they only ate the seed plants, didn't eat the mushrooms, didn't eat any of the animals, etc., etc. And then that all changed that all changed when Jesus Christ came on the scene, and he said, all of it, if taken with thanksgiving, is meat for man, or is food for man.
Actually, didn't it change when Noah got out of the boat?
Well, that's when they started eating it, but I'm not sure.
Right
I'm really
after we
not sure.
I need to go back and read. I guess I haven't read.
Well,
it.
if he killed the cow, how did we get beef?
No, you're right. I just meant like we just survived that flood together. You think you'd get at least a couple of months or something before we start?
Yeah, before you kill them
Eating.
all.
No, but
I'm just saying, man.
they all had babies on the ark. So
So we ate the.
They ate the babies. They gave, and they had to give a sacrifice, and that was an animal.
breaking my heart.
So what else? What's the difference in the cultures over there? You know, we talked about the city. Tell me about Seoul.
Does it have soul?
Well, Seoul is a very, I guess, pushy city. Like, I have to somehow remember to calm down here, but people are very much go, go, go. They have things to do. They have places to get to. Everyone is working. It's a very in the now city. You know, fast fashion, is huge in Seoul. They purchase some of the most luxury brands in the world are like purchased in Seoul, just people buying them. It's very much a, you know, Samsung is a Korean company. Hyundai is a Korean company. LG, Lotte, like it's a very growing, fast-paced city, and you feel that. If like someone pushes you or runs into you, I told my family, don't take it personally. And we got pushed in elevators, we got pushed on subways, we got pushed walking down the street. Don't take it personally. Have I started pushing people? Yes. Like, I have places to go. I work 9 hours today. They don't care whether it's a foreigner or.
No, I meant like here. If we start pushing people.
Yeah, I
here,
have to calm down. People think I'm a bit aggressive sometimes, and I don't mean it. I'm trying to decompress and relax a bit more.
And we think of this country as being like that, of being real pushy and high stress and got to get more done. And we think of, you know, that's what we think of.
And I will say that's unique to Seoul, because people in Busan, Busan's much more relaxed. Would you agree, Gabe?
Busan was very chill. Busan is good.
Busan is good. And so Busan is much more relaxed, but that was a key thing of Seoul. It's very on-the-go city. I think that was like the big culture thing you have to get used to.
How much difference was there between Korea, Seoul, and when you were in Spain?
Night and day.
Night and day, yeah. Spain has siestas.
They nap in the afternoon for crying out loud. They work like a 16-hour workday in Korea.
Right, so the siesta is like, you know, the 3-hour nap in the middle of the day, more or less. So very different pacing.
You know, the irony of it is both countries are surviving. They're doing business.
Doing good. They're doing really good.
Yeah, doing real good.
One other note to add to the idea of pushing people around and stuff. I was doing some research on the culture a little bit after the trip, and the way they phrased it online was that in like normal culture and day-to-day life, inconveniences and small things will happen to you, like getting bumped on the subway. It's really a small thing if you think about it, unless you get knocked to the ground.
In this country, they shoot you if you get bumped.
Whoa! Don't say the S word like that. We're not talking about guns today. No guns. No guns in this conversation. But
if they bump you, they could be trying to rob you at the same time.
No, just relax. We're all going to work right now. We're all going to work at 7 a.m. right now or 5 a.m. You know what I mean? But in normal culture or day-to-day life, you're not supposed to react so strongly. You're supposed to see these things coming. This is a part of the natural day, natural life. Inconveniences are bound to occur. So it's not to be apathetic towards things, but it is, you don't need to extremely explode, you know what I mean? Like I went to Quick Trip to buy some food, and this old gentleman walked through the line around the hot foods, and he got in front of everybody, right in front of me actually. And I thought nothing of it. I'm getting water, blah, 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 right? I go up to the cashier attendant, and he's apologizing profusely for this old man who cut me off now in my line. And I look at him and I'm like, okay, cool. But is his reaction that way because some people might explode though? Some people might get upset at something so small.
Of course.
You know?
Yes.
And this is all a hunch though still, because I only got to see these countries for 2 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. But I really like the culture around all of that versus how sensitive and touchy-feely some of us can be in America sometimes.
So when you've gotten a little pushy since you've been home for a couple of weeks, have you noticed a difference in the reaction with people?
Yeah, I think it's mostly like when I go to like the grocery store and I'm like running around with my cart and I'm just kind of butting where I want to go. I guess a bit aggressive in that sense, just like running, like I have to go, like I'm getting this, like I'm gonna take my car and whoosh around people. And people have just stopped and like stared. Like one person just stared at me. I was like,
who is she?
yeah, anyways, like it's just,
Well, that's interesting.
it's just, it was very go, go, go. If you didn't push your way in front, you were never going to check out. You know, if you didn't make your way into the,
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
it was, there's a lot of people, there's 10 million people in a very like small city, you know, a small space.
That's
So
as big as New York.
bigger,
Bigger, yeah.
bigger.
We went up in a sky tree, or we went up in a tower, and we saw, you just see city, and then you see it foggy, like at the end, or you just can't see anymore, but you still see city like everywhere.
Yeah.
That felt that way in Tokyo and in Seoul, for sure.
It was like when we were at the park trying to get photos with the cherry blossoms, if you would have waited, you
We
know,
would have been waiting for days.
you would have been waiting for like that perfect spot. You just have to go take your picture. If you're inconveniencing other people, you're inconveniencing other people.
And
Wow.
you just don't have time to think about this type of stuff because it's so go, 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 and it's so, it's like you're schooling like fish, and you bump into each other, so what? You just keep going.
And I'm reminded of, now I don't know how the traffic is there, but that reminds me of the traffic in the Philippines, in the Dominican Republic, in Jamaica. I mean, they just as soon bump you out of the way, right?
Yeah.
They have foam on all the doors in Korea, it looked like.
They have
All
what?
the foam blocks on the car doors.
They got foam blocks on all the car doors and stuff, and I was really impressed with how clean all the cars were for as crazy as the traffic was.
See, you never saw a parking garage.
No, thank God.
So their parking garages are so small. Like usually people get out of the car before like the car's parked. Like if you're, you know, like whoever's driving has to park the car obviously and squeeze out. And you know, Koreans are a little bit smaller people as well, but they would get out of the car before the car is parked because the spaces are so tight.
Oh, wow.
And in these like huge parking garages, there were lights above each spot with it being red or green, so you could see if it was open or not.
You go in through the sunroof
Yeah.
in your car.
Wow, you'd get out and push your car in? No.
You know,
But you're almost that bad, huh?
it's pretty, and that's why those foam blocks are there on most car doors. So when you open, it just bounces on the foam block on the other car, so it doesn't ding it. I don't know if I'd rather have a ding or those bright blue foam blocks.
They got bright, yeah. They're
You know,
all blue.
all the movies and stuff you've seen that were Korean, I never noticed that before.
Huh.
Tell us about the garbage disposal. Your dad was that really impressed him.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things I miss because I feel very wasteful here. So the recycling system in Korea, you have to recycle food waste as a specific garbage throw-out. You had bags. You'd go to your local convenience store and you'd get bags for your area of the neighborhood. They were specific to your neighborhood. So that was step number one. And they had bags for general waste and then food waste. So any food waste from cooking, except eggshells and chicken bones, would go into the food waste bags. And then general waste was very little, but it would be everything you didn't recycle. So you had to recycle aluminum and plastic and cardboard, and usually there was a recycling center in your apartment building. And then whatever was left, no recyclables, no food waste, that was then general waste. And let's say you had to throw out a suitcase, you'd have to go to your I had to go to my landlord because I didn't know how.
This is a specific hypothetical.
Yeah. Well, I had to get rid of the suitcase. I ended up posting it for free, and someone picked it up from a Facebook page. But you'd have to buy a sticker, and it'd have to be recycled specifically. And there was always that warning, if you didn't do this correctly, you could be fined about $1,000.
Whoa.
Yes.
That would solve our
Yeah,
waste
that would
problems
solve our
here.
waste problem.
Right. And so like little things like, you know, I'm like seeing all, like I know I'm an expert now at recycling truly. And so I feel wasteful when I put it all in one bin, because America puts it all together and then they separate it, kind of. But they say like
you don't know where it's going, or if someone doesn't
Right.
buy our recyclables, they don't get recycled. I've heard
They
Yeah.
go to
they
the
just
dump.
they just get
Like
thrown
they
in the
do.
dump, right?
Yeah.
so it really makes me feel, I guess, kind of upset here. Like I might probably take my recyclables to a distribution center if we have one in our area. I have to look into it because
You do, I think, in Black River Falls.
we do. Because
Yeah.
I had a system of where everything went, and I can remake that quite easily, I think.
We have one here,
At the Trempealeau County Healthcare Center.
Trempealeau County
Yeah.
Health Center. You know, that's something, I want to just throw a couple things in here. You know, there's more to life, and I'm going to say this in a positive. It's not, don't take it negatively, but there's more to life than religion. Religion is also tending the garden. And we have a responsibility as Christians, we have a responsibility of leaders to tend the garden. You know, when you have to go to another country to find out how to recycle, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
We're just simply doing something wrong. That's why, you know, look into some of these things. I want to share something that really impressed me. I even went so far this morning. Went into Wanda's recycled garbage dump, and I picked out there was aluminum can in there. I
What?
took it out.
Wow.
Well, it's the only aluminum can we probably
Yeah,
had
but-
in 2 months. So,
But you got to recycle it.
oh, Lord. Do
Yeah,
I?
I had
Well,
a
you'll
So
find
she's
it
gonna,
a thousand
she's gonna say
bucks.
yes. You're gonna have to.
I'll
She's
find
gonna
you
say
$1,000
yes.
bucks.
I never had a lot of aluminum, so I would have a small, like small bin underneath my sink that aluminum would go in, and I'd only take aluminum out like once a month. 'Cause,
Wow.
yeah.
And then you
I
had to
don't
buy
have
a
very much
specific
aluminum.
bag for aluminum.
No, so in the apartment building, they had a recyclable area where you take your recycling down and you'd separate it: plastic, paper, aluminum. And then there was a recycling guy that worked for the building that would bag things up and double check things.
Nice.
And then I was always kind of scared of him because I didn't want him to yell at me. He yelled at me one time because someone put pillows in the recycling area.
Bad
He thought
idea.
it was me. It was not me. And so he was like yelling at me. And I think this was like my second week in Korea. So my Korean was very low. I mean, I probably wouldn't have understood him today, but I was always like, if I heard the recycling man outside, I would wait and take my recycling down after he left.
Grumpy old fellow.
Yeah, I was
Good,
like,
good deal.
but I washed my recyclables. I was a good recycling person. I saw some people who didn't wash their plastic bins.
Gross.
I know, because like the food bins, you know, like takeout food, like you're supposed to wash those out, and that's kind of area specific / your garbage, your recycle.
Your own specific thing. Yeah.
That one's a bit more specific.
Wow,
per
that's
area.
quite interesting.
But it's good. But you know, when you have, well, even if you don't have 10 million people, but if you have 10 million people, this is very helpful
really
to keep
important for that
everything
many
organized
people.
and clean. And look at what we do. We throw it in the garbage can, and then they haul it out and have mountains made out of it, like down by Chicago.
Sad.
I mean, come on. We could do better. We
Well,
can do better.
And it's interesting.
And we
that
don't have to have acres of plastic out in the ocean.
We've got land. We should build a good distribution center for recycling or something like that. We've got a lot of land compared to Seoul,
Get
compared
more
to Korea, compared to
Yeah.
Japan, an island. One's a peninsula.
Yeah.
See, you have
Yeah.
to sell it.
Well, we have to figure out how to make money off of it, right? In a sense.
You have to make money.
Somebody's got to get paid to do all this still, technically, right? That's
Well,
how it works.
if we find those people that refuse to recycle their aluminum, and we find those people that don't recycle their cardboard, we fine them $1,000.
Yeah, that would make a lot of money to pay someone to.
Yeah, that would
Separate.
help a lot. Zoe, I have a question before we close up the hour. Seoul is right next to North Korea.
Yes.
And how are the people in Seoul? What are their feelings? I mean, are they scared? Are they very concerned about North Korea? Are they concerned about their? I mean, when it got split into North and South Korea, some family members were on the other side of that militarized zone.
Demilitarized neutral zone.
Yeah.
So if you hear in the news about like missiles going over Japan or missiles going into the sea next to Korea, we, or at least most people didn't know about it. Like usually my parents would text me, like mom or dad would be like, oh, did you hear about this? No, because we're going to our typical, 9 to 6 work week and life keeps moving. There wasn't any drills. There weren't drills to go underground. So people mostly ignored it because you can't break down every time North Korea shoots off a missile, So it's more that it is very irritating, but it's really hard because there was a colleague at work and he has aunts and uncles that he's never seen, that he most likely will never see again, that he talked about. And one of my students, Jiwon, they have show and tell at school, and Jiwon went to the DMZ, the Demilitarized Neutral Zone, to write letters to the grandmother she's never met. So her mom's mom, who, they may never see. Jiwon may never meet her grandmother. They don't know if the grandmother's still alive, even, if she's receiving these letters. So it's a very sad situation overall. And to see that, I think when it was like one of my kids, one of my students, and my coworkers, where you can hear those stories of people directly affected by it, it's just a sad situation. And most Koreans want the peninsula reunited, and we're actually quite disappointed that the war ended as it did, with it being split in half.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that, but they did it.
Well, so one fun fact, because we went to the Korean War Memorial, and I gotta say, it was really insightful in terms of thinking about the history of this country in general, right? That war ended that way because China intervened at the very end of it, and they stopped the push. The UN and the countries that were helping out South Korea and the Koreans were pushing, and China came in with a bunch of force, really. Mm-hmm. And all of this stuff has me thinking about the narratives of war and how we've been committed as a country to kind of having our hands in things, for better and for worse, depending on how you look at it or what you know about the history here. Right?
Depends what position you got.
Depends on what position you're in right now, right? But other countries and their narratives have also been committed to their own types of goals, just different than ours in terms of like instability, or in terms of creating chaos, or in terms of creating pockets where things can be capitalized upon. Where, as in Russia right now, Putin thinks he can create a pocket of chaos in Ukraine and take over and just do it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that's more like the position that Ukraine's been in. They've been in a bad position being right next to Russia. I don't know how this all orchestrated out or how this was planned, but it really made me zoom out and think about some of this stuff, and in regards to how the culture has been shaped in South Korea. We're talking like maximum efficiency for a city that's bigger than New York. We talked about New York with our taxi driver. He just laughed. He's like, yeah, we stole the blueprints for that. We made it 10 times better. It's like,
right.
So efficient and grateful over there.
Seoul, I think Seoul has that privilege where it was a city, not a privilege, I would say, but it was created after a lot of major metropolitan cities were made. So they got to take those blueprints and they got to make it better for the people, because New York City, when it started, no one knew it was going to be a city of 9 million people when it was first made.
It wasn't planned like that.
Seoul had the idea, so it's a super efficient city to live in.
Okay.
Super efficient.
Well, we're
cool.
rapidly running out of time here, and I want to share one thing that is foremost on mind in listening to these young people as they travel around the world and with our own experiences. We don't have a monopoly on ideas. We don't have a monopoly on food. We don't have a monopoly on politics. We don't have a monopoly on recycling. There's no shortage of ideas and thoughts around the world. all too often, the one thing that the U.S. has a problem with is their arrogance. They think they have a monopoly on intelligence. They think they have a monopoly on all this stuff. We don't. North Korea, South Korea, China, Hong Kong, Japan, Tokyo, there's skyscrapers all over. One thing that you can do when you fly over a city is you count the number of aerial cranes you see, and you can see how much building is going on. So in spite of all the things that we see going on, there is progress wherever you go. And there's new ideas wherever you go. And don't be afraid to embrace some of these new ideas. You know, God didn't stop giving brains out at the Pacific Ocean or at the Atlantic Ocean. He didn't stop doing it between the states. Every state, every country, every community, every person, rich, poor, or homeless, has ideas that are valuable. And that's what this show really is all about. And we just need to give Christ the benefit of planting those ideas. I learned some things about ramen noodles here. I learned some things about recycling. I learned some things about a whole bunch of this stuff. And where do we think we have all the good ideas? You know, you think about that, Zoe. We got 30 seconds. You each got 30 seconds, and we're going to wrap her up.
You know, we don't have a monopoly on any of it, and we have to be open to trying new foods, trying new ideas, thinking about, you know, how this all works. It's my favorite drug in the world to travel, to look at the cultures of one place and the practices, and to compare and contrast with how we do things here, because we don't have all the answers.
Right.
Our country
Zoe?
feels crazy sometimes, right?
What's your take?
I mean, it's very true. I think there's things I've picked up from my one friend, Anna, who's from the Dominican Republic, the DR. Things I've picked up from my host mother in Spain. Things I've picked up from people in Korea. It's a mosh posh of ideas, and we always say that the states are a melting pot, but it's more like a patchwork quilt. And sometimes people stay away, and I wish people would melt together a bit more and learn from others, because people have so much knowledge.
So,
Amen.
you know, and God gives us the brains to think. Give your life to Christ. Let Him reveal. Just let Him reveal these things to you. And don't get on that prideful, egotistical
Yes.
American mentality that we have everything. We don't.
Yes.
There's a big world out there, and don't be afraid to take and go someplace else. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. It's been a wonderful day.
The healer of my soul, the healer of infirmities, the honor of the loving